What's going on, everybody? Welcome to, I guess, a special edition of Blazers Uprise Live. We're recapping Summer League. Game number 2, the Blazers took on the New Orleans Pelicans tonight in Las Vegas and got a 85-68 win. A game that looked very ugly for the Blazers in the first quarter, but then they clamped up on defense, and you had some impressive moments from some specific players, and we'll go over all of them individually. This isn't going to be that long of a stream. I'm thinking maybe 45 minutes. We'll see. Normally when I say that, it goes a little longer than I expect, but, we'll talk about each player a little bit and maybe a little bit about the Shaedon Sharpe news and that sort of thing. Eric, what's going on, man? Did you enjoy this game? What are your thoughts?
Man, I thought I was going to have to put bleach in my eyes after that first quarter, but thankfully they turned it around and played actually pretty well the final 3 quarters, and it was actually fun to watch. But I was definitely having PTSD from the tanking portion of the season we just finished in the regular season, and it felt a lot like that early on. It was like, oh my goodness, do I have to watch this? And then thankfully Jabari Walker comes in and the game kind of changes and we go on a big run, and we've pretty much controlled the game from there.
Yep. We've got a few players to discuss today. Who do you want to start off with, chat? Let me know who you guys want us to talk about first. We'll do it by chat. I was going to ask you, Eric, but we'll let chat decide who we talk about first for this post-game stream.
GD's Josh. I hope Dyson Daniels is okay. For those that don't know, he went down in the first half, rolled his ankle off Brandon Williams' foot, so hopefully he's okay.
Yeah. You have the 5th pick got hurt, which was Jaden Ivey. You had the 7th pick get hurt, Shaedon Sharpe, and now you have the 8th pick get hurt, which is Dyson Daniels. You hate to see it, especially lottery guys. That's the thing is, I feel like the number one attraction in Summer League is just seeing these lottery players up against a higher level of competition than played in college. You suck to see him get hurt. So hopefully it's not too bad for Dyson Daniels or Jaden Ivey. It should be something that heals, and they should be fine by the time the regular season happens. It's ankle injuries, so they have about 3 months to get ready for that. With Shaedon Sharpe, a little different story. Do you want to talk about that first a little bit?
Sure.
Yeah, so Sharpe, torn labrum. Sounds like it's minor. They're going to reevaluate him in 14 days. Maybe that's the timeline to determine whether or not he needs surgery. I don't really know, but yeah, he got hurt, and it was a serious injury, and people were questioning him for not re-entering the game a couple nights ago, and it was frustrating on that stream over on the main channel talking about that, having people question whether he wanted to play or not when the dude got hurt and they were waiting on an MRI, and it turns out there was some actual damage. So thank goodness imagine if they threw him back out there and then after that they said, oh yeah, we threw him out there and he had a torn labrum.
That's how about Nas, right?
Yeah. Nas was thrown out for what? One defensive play, though? I think it was just one defensive play.
Yeah, but he still went back in the game, yeah.
Yeah, but Nasir's required surgery, whereas Sharpe's might not.
Yeah, so just doing my little bit of research about it today, it looks like if the tear is minor enough, it's a case where it might actually heal stronger, and several... I forgot the players, but one of the Twitter doctors listed several players that have had small tears and it actually grew back stronger and was fine. And then also the fact that it's his non-shooting shoulder will help a lot as well.
Yep, absolutely. So it sucks that we don't get to see Sharpe in Summer League. That's a very giant buzzkill, and I was really excited for Summer League. The main reason was, of course, Shaedon Sharpe. Yeah. So it's a little different, Well, it's like, I don't know, without Shaedon Sharpe, I don't know if I would have planned to do post-game shows for every Summer League game, to be honest. At least it's only 5, right, compared to the past where it might have been 9 or 10, but that was the main reason why I wanted to cover basically every game.
This guy, Tori, in the first quarter was like, man, we're not doing the post-game shows.
Yeah, I was wondering what the point was with how they played in the first quarter. You had Brandon Williams throwing an outlet pass to the ref, and then Kyle Alexander, who's one of our Summer League big men, threw an outlet pass directly to the other team. Like, it just looked like this team didn't know how to play basketball or run an offense or anything. So it looked really, really rough. But then you have some good moments after that. Quarters 2, 3, and 4, this team absolutely destroyed New Orleans. I know Dyson Daniels didn't do much, but they fell apart after they lost him.
Yeah, Trey Murphy was chucking. I don't know what he ended up from 3, but he shot a ton of threes. I think they were 4 for 30 as a team.
Trey Murphy was 1 for 9 from 3, but he was 6 for 7 inside the arc and 8 for 8 from the free throw line. So he had 23 points. He had 4 steals too. So, depending on what you're looking at with him, it was either a really bad or really good game. He was their leading scorer.
And as Elemental QT points out, they did do x-rays on Dyson Daniels, and it looks like they're negative. So,
yeah, which is good news.
Yeah.
So as far as New Orleans goes, I mean, nobody shot well. They shot 4 for 31 from 3, but the Blazers weren't much better. They were 3 for 24. Mm-hmm. So just an ugly game in terms of shooting the ball. Both teams combined 7 for 55 from 3, Eric, which is like 12%.
Yikes. That's bad.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't even know what to say about that. Just ugly. Like, that's the thing. People say, oh, well, it's Summer League. That's what you expect. You don't expect teams to shoot 55 threes and only make 7 of them. Normally, you have some shooters out here, but you look at the Blazers, and you got Jabari Walker's 0 for 4 from 3. George King's 0 for 2. Keon Johnson's 0 for 3. Didi Louzada missed his only attempt. Greg Brown 0 for 1 as well. Craig Randall 1 for 6. So, nobody shot well.
No.
Chat wants us to talk about Jabari first. Okay, what'd you think about your guy, Jabari, tonight?
He just has a steady influence. So second straight game, he's had a rebound putback dunk, which is good to see him active on the glass. One thing I was really impressed watching some of his college games, despite being a guy who had the ball in his hands a lot, he has a real knack for cutting. And I thought between him and Watford tonight, both of them had several instances of just making smart reads on when to cut or when to not cut, and it led to some easy baskets. And he's just real active, good rebounder, doesn't like try to do too much. And then today, he has a possession where he's isolated up on top, dribbles, doesn't get by his guy, but I think it was Watford who cuts, and he throws a nice pass to him for a lay-in, and then later on, running the fast break, has a nice pass for a bucket as well. So it's good to see him. You hope that he adjusts his game to be able to do more off the dribble, but it's good to see him, at least, even if he's not blowing by guys, knowing, having a good feel for how to pass and finding the open guys.
Yep. One thing I would like to see is just attack more closeouts for Jabari. I mean, he's showing us exactly who he was in college, which was like a 3-and-D guy, right? He didn't do much off the dribble in college, and that doesn't have to be a problem at the NBA level when you're looking for a role player to just play some defense, make the right cut, knock down threes. He didn't knock down the 3-ball today, but I'm not really worried about that. Finished well inside a couple times, had a couple putbacks, 5 rebounds, was active defensively, had a steal and a block, and had 12 points in 18 minutes. Only played 18 minutes. I want to see him getting 35 minutes because I think at this point he might be, maybe other than Trenton Watford, he might be the next in line in terms of players on the Summer League team for potential minutes. Now, I'm not saying he's better than a Keon Johnson, but Keon Johnson plays at a loaded position.
He's blocked, positionally blocked,
So I would like to see Jabari Walker play more. He didn't get in until like 1 minute left in the first quarter. Didn't really understand that, but he came in and kind of helped change the tide for Portland. Just his activity and energy was really, really good out there. I mean, you could see the impact right away. There was a couple threes that he, in the corners where he settled for contested threes where I thought he had a lane to drive baseline. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what I said coming into the league is his one area to improve is just his off the dribble stuff. He's a good shooter. He's a good defender, right? The problem is I think sometimes he might fall in love a little bit too much with that 3-point shot. I would like to see him just work on attacking closeouts. Even if that's not really his game. And in the NBA, playing next to Dame, playing next to Ant, if he ever plays next to them in meaningful minutes, he's going to get open threes.
Yeah.
And I trust him to knock them down. I would just like to see him work on attacking closeouts because that is one of the areas of question for me.
Yeah, and hopefully the Blazers staff identifies that too, and that's what the best part about Summer League is. It's not necessarily showing that skill right now, but between now and when training camp starts, if you notice that that's something that you could really take your game to the next step. So that's how players get better. You see like a Nicholas Batum with like completely struggles in Summer League, but he works on everything and gets to the point where he's capable at a lot of things he wasn't capable of showing just a few months earlier in Summer League. And that can really change for a player. So if they really focus on that, and he's as hard of a worker as it seems like, I hope that that's going to be one of his main focuses from the end of this Summer League until training camp in September.
Yep, absolutely. So I like what I've seen out of him. It's funny looking on Twitter and seeing a lot of people like, oh my goodness, you guys are right. Look at him. I mean, this is what he's been at Colorado. Like, none of this surprises me at all. This is basically what I expected out of him: to rebound, to cut well, to hit threes, which he didn't really do today, but and to play some defense. So that's why I had him higher on my big board than where he was drafted. I had him early 40s. Eric, you were even higher. The reason why I didn't have him higher was because I didn't know how much upside he has in terms of just being a guy that can actually create or do stuff off the dribble. Now, he had a really nice pass in this game to a back-cutting Trenton Watford. Jabari didn't beat his guy off the dribble. He did a couple of crossovers, didn't really go anywhere with them, but caught the attention of Trenton Watford's guy, and then Watford cut back door, and Jabari had a really nice lead pass, really nice pocket pass to him. So you like to see that passing. I just want to see him maybe be a little bit more aggressive, because you're talking about an offense that was kind of messy at times throughout this game. I want to see him be aggressive and see what he can do off the dribble. That's kind of something I'm looking for right now.
Absolutely. And so to me, it's weird because you watch him play, and if you didn't know how old he was, I would say he fell in the draft because he's like 23, 24, right? And doesn't have much upside. But you forget he's still only 19. Like, he's still a young player. So, and that's one of the reasons why I had him as a first-round grade. I had him 25th on my big board, is because I feel like he still had some room, and like you said, attacking closeouts is something that you can work on. And when you're like a catch-and-shoot three type of guy, if you learn how to like use that to your advantage to have, because defenders are going to run out at him all the time if he gets a reputation for knocking that down. So it's much like the Pelicans. Trey Murphy is going to have the same progression if he's going to be a really good or maybe even elite player in this league. Is you have to be able to use that you've got the 3-and-D skills, but now use that to your advantage to create space when you're not that good driving off the dribble in an isolation situation. So I feel like he can develop that if he, like I said, they just have to identify that. Hopefully the coaches are talking with him about that and working on them with that. But I think that's one of the reasons why I had him higher, because I felt like he eventually could be that. And I saw him in the combine do it a few times, and I was like, oh, wow, that's interesting. And then he shows his passing ability tonight. And so it's like he's just a smart player. And I really gravitate towards smart players who also like are energy players too. And I feel like Trenton was the same way. So it reminds me a lot of him, only maybe better shooter, obviously. But so just activity and high IQ and stuff like that with athletic ability. He's got length and obviously with those putback dunks showing some athleticism. So I think he just has, it's one of those things where if he puts it all together, he could be like, I'm not going to say elite, but like a top-notch like wing, like role player type in this league. I don't think that's that far out of the question.
Yeah, Yeah. So, like what I've seen out of him, I think the second guy we should talk about is Watford. He was the Blazers' leading scorer today. Had 17 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists. Was 6 for 12 from the field. 1 for 3 from 3. The 3 that he knocked down was contested. 4 for 4 from the free throw line. I'm looking for him to maybe shoot a few more threes. He played 30 minutes and only shot 3 of them. That's kind of one of the areas that I'm looking for with him, is he needs to be able to knock down some threes. Did he airball one in this game, or am I thinking about somebody else?
I don't think he airballed.
There was multiple airballs in this game.
Yeah, there was a lot.
So,
yeah.
But, nice to see him knock one down. He kind of settled down. It's just, when I watch him play, man, this is what I'm kind of realizing. If he had the threat, and if he of a pull-up jumper, and he could consistently knock that down from 3, maybe even mid-range, he would be so good, because he's attacking guys, and guys are just backpedaling. He's not able to beat them off the dribble or, draw like an extra defender and kick out, because his primary defender is just backpedaling on him and just letting him come to him and then meeting him at the rim. And Watford's not a guy who's like super athletic who's just going to jump up and dunk over that guy. So it's tough for him because he can't make his defenders pay for just backpedaling on him. If he could, and defenders weren't able to do that, it would open up literally everything for him, I think. Because obviously knocking down jump shots, knocking down threes, pulling up off the dribble, but then, you have to play him higher in that scenario. So if it would be easier for him to beat his primary defender off the dribble, and then that's when maybe he can finish around the rim or draw multiple defenders and kick, and that'll open up his floater potentially. So that's really the one thing he needs to work tirelessly on, is becoming becoming a decent shooter. Just something that you have to respect, because he has other areas where he's really good in my opinion. It's just hard for him to get to those areas off the dribble because he's not respected as a shooter.
Yeah, and I think that's why I liked last season before he got hurt. You heard Scott Brooks was like challenging him to hit multiple threes in a game, and he didn't care if he made them to shoot at least 5 this game and stuff like that. So I think that's another encouraging thing, is that the Blazers also have already recognized that if he develops that, it's pretty much means he's going to be a good player in this league for a long time, because even without the threat of a 3-point shot in that third quarter, after struggling a little bit, he definitely struggled in the first game. But in the first quarter, I was like, oh, man, maybe this summer league thing just isn't for Trenton. And then all of a sudden in the third quarter, he was getting to the rim every time and finishing. And he was just getting by people, and it was good to see. It felt like the Trenton before he got hurt. And I'm glad it showed up at some point, and he didn't just struggle throughout the summer league and maybe got shut down after 2 games because it just wasn't happening. Nice to see some flashes there, but it's impressive that he can get to the rim without that 3-point shot yet.
I mean, I think the difference was they started running more in transition, and kind of getting Trenton a little bit more ahead of the pack in a couple of transition opportunities, and then moving the ball where he wasn't attacking somebody that was set. And then he was able to have that sort of driving lane instead of somebody just kind of in front of him backpedaling. I just think he could be really good in transition as a ball handler if he could pull up from 3 men, because he's a threat to get to the rim if he does that too, and then he makes the right pass. And I would just like to see him develop that, because I feel like he could be a guy that you give the ball to and could go and get a bucket, because the ball handling for his size, the craftiness, the floater, being able to use his body around the rim. He showed off like that Rondo pump fake last year at times. He has the total package except for the shot, and it's just that's what I want to see from him to open up everything else. So, he can still get to the rim. It's easier for him when the ball's moving better, when he's maybe moving off the ball, when he just isn't attacking somebody that's set in front of him. So I think that was the difference.
Yeah. One thing I'm kind of, if the plan is to have him play some backup minutes at center, I think it's fine offensively, but I'm a little worried about it defensively, because I think he's just, I don't know. I think he might be kind of stuck in between the 4 and 5. Actually, defensively, it might end up being tough for him because I don't think he's necessarily ready yet to guard quicker fours, but he's not really big enough to bang with bigger fives and stuff. So I just hope that being on the second unit, it kind of doesn't matter as much, I guess. But that's one concern I have for him defensively is maybe being stuck in between the two.
Yep, absolutely. All right, who do you want to talk about next?
Let's talk about Keon.
Okay, so Keon Johnson, 5 for 11 from the field, 0 for 3 from 3. Had 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, 12 points. Did have 5 fouls. He had some good moments. 2 turnovers. Or what did you say?
3 turnovers.
Yeah, 3 turnovers. He had some good moments in this game. Attacking the rim, a couple crafty finishes. He likes that spin move. Had a spin move floater. Had a nice little step through during the second quarter when the Blazers went on their run. Would like to see him knock down threes. 0 for 3 kind of sucks. But, we have a good feel for what Keon is at this point, and he's a combo guard who maybe can play some point in stretches, depending on who's on the floor with him and, who's guarding him, that sort of thing, but it isn't quite there. 2 assists, 3 turnovers. I mean, the Blazers just look like a summer league team without a point guard, which is why it was beneficial for them to push the pace a little bit more and just try and get the ball moving more because, we'll talk about Brandon Williams in a second, but Keon looks solid, man. I mean, it's hard to even get too excited about how he plays because I just don't see the opportunity. That's what it all comes back to for me, So nice to see him play solidly, I think, over the first 2 Summer League games. He had 20 last game. Maybe he's raising his trade value, but probably not.
Well, I mean, I see recent chats. So we've had some conversations about Keon in the past. So last year, even when he played well, I didn't see him doing anything well enough with his size being an issue to warrant maybe considering, him beating out someone in the rotation or having a lot of trade value or like a star in the making just blocked by position. So I kind of felt like he's a tweener who doesn't have the ball skills to play point guard, but doesn't have the shooting to play shooting guard. And those kind of players, I mean, you can find like hundreds and hundreds of players like that in this league, right? Or that are trying to make the league. So nothing screamed, man, this guy has some potential in this area. And over these first 2 games of Summer League are the first time watching Keon where I'm like, okay, man, he's putting in the work. Like he's really improving in a lot of areas. There's been, 4 or 5 examples of him breaking down someone off the dribble and getting to the hoop with some pretty impressive ball handling. And that's just the improvement you want to see out of him, because if there is a path to him getting some minutes, it's going to have to be as a third string point guard, because we don't really have that on the roster. So if he can possibly become that, then that's fine. I think he's still a ways away from being able to handle a NBA offense in a regular season game fully if we're competing. But I do like that he's put in work, he's gotten better, and he's actually useful with the ball in his hands, getting to the basket, and also made some nice cuts, like as I mentioned earlier with Trenton and Jabari. Keon also had a couple nice cuts in this game and finished in traffic.
Yep.
But with Jabari and Trenton and Keon, I mean, if any of those guys could hit the 3-pointer, like in the upper 30 percentile, like that would lead to them that's probably going to be the most decisive factor in them getting playing time. So if any of those guys want to play, they probably need to hit that 3 consistently.
Yep, absolutely. And nobody did that on the Blazers today. But I don't know if there's anybody else that we could possibly talk about. I mean, Kyle Alexander, I have nothing to say about Kyle Alexander. 4 for 5, 9 points, 20 minutes.
Hey,
but
he wasn't Luka Garza. We could say that.
Yeah, exactly. And Colby Ross in 12 minutes was 4 for 5 as well. People were raging at him when he was like the only guy that could make a shot in the first quarter. He was like 2 for 3. The rest of the team was 2 for 10, and people were getting frustrated with Colby Ross. It was confusing to me, man.
It's not Colby Ross's fault, but like watching Brandon Williams the whole first quarter, it's like ISO. I think I'm Kyrie Irving, and it was just annoying. And then Colby Ross comes in. Yeah, he hits a couple, but it's like they don't pass the ball an entire possession and they dribble like 40 times. It's just, I hate that kind of style and watch it.
Yeah, I don't like that in Summer League. But when the rest of the team is such a mess, I think he's doing them a favor because the rest of the team looks like they don't even know how to play basketball in the first quarter.
In his defense, it's like, I don't really, no one was moving. No one was really doing anything at those times, so you kind of had to. But yeah, I don't like when Summer League players come in, and I know they're trying to make a name for themselves, but in my opinion, if I'm a scout watching these, I don't want to just watch some guy, because I know like 90% of these guys could put up 20 shots in a game and score 20 points or whatever. Like, I don't want to see that. I want to see him. We know he's like one of the top scorers in the WCC, right? League conference history. I think he's the leading scorer in Pepperdine history. I know he can score. I don't want him to show me that. He's not in the league because he can't score. I wanted to see him show off some point guard skills because he's small enough to where he can't play any other position other than point guard. So like those type of players, it drives me crazy when they come in and do all these spin moves and dribbles and they don't get any separation and still shoot anyways. And like, even if they make it or they don't, I just don't think they're great shots. But to your point, they weren't really moving or running an offense anyway, so it's not like he had any options.
Yeah, I was just surprised how frustrated people got about him, and the whole team just looked like a mess. But Brandon Williams, you brought him up. It's so weird, man, because his game is like the type of game that normally thrives in Summer League, just as a score-first point guard with some craftiness, with some moves. And he had some really good moments in the NBA last year. He's playing worse over these 2 games of Summer League than he did last year in the NBA, and it's very confusing to me because he's the type of player that would normally look a lot better in Summer League. He hasn't been able to shoot the ball well. 1 for 4 today. Didn't shoot the ball well in game 1. He just doesn't look like a point guard. Doesn't really see the floor well enough to be a point guard or a facilitator. Had 3 assists, 2 turnovers. One of the turnovers was an outlet pass that was just like, I don't know what happened, but it was one of the worst outlet passes I've ever seen. He was 4 for 14 from the field, forced some tough mid-range looks. I don't know. It just doesn't look good, man. I'm surprised. In my preview video, I said he might have a chance at like being a sneaky pick to win MVP of Summer League. You've seen players of his type and caliber, like, basically be a competitor for Summer League MVP in the past. Look at the guy who won it, the Dame. Like, Dame was a co-winner of the MVP with somebody else who I completely forget who it was, but it was a player that reminded me a little bit of Brandon Williams, just a guy that scores the ball, every Summer League. I mean, Antonio Blakeney, look at what he did in Summer League last year, right? And Blazer fans wanted him. So surprised at how much he's struggled, man. Have not been impressed with him.
Yeah, there was one play where he dribbled a bunch of times and then got caught on the sideline and tried to throw like a lazy cross-court pass that got picked off and led to a bucket on the other end. Again, you have guys like Trenton Watford, Greg Brown. He's mostly playing with those guys. So I'd like to see him try to get them involved versus hunting his own shot. As it's just kind of frustrating to me, but I mean, he's already on the roster as a two-way player. He doesn't need to prove that he can score once again. He made it to the league because he has showcased that scoring ability, but now it's time to show that you have the point guard ability. So I have the same problem with him as that I did with Ross. And that, I'd like to see them. And it's kind of like what we were saying about CJ for several years. It's like, you can get to your spots on the floor. You can use those handles and your quickness to get to those spots, but then you always shoot out of there, right? Like use that to draw the defense in and create for others. And I'd like him to show that more. So hopefully he does that in the future. But yeah, it's rough, and especially when he's I think he's pretty much missed every single wide open three he's had. And then last game towards the end, he misses a couple of free throws with about a minute left or so. It's just, yeah, rough shooting wise. I'd like to say, well, at least the shots aren't going down, but he's running the offense really well or something like that. But unfortunately, 3 assists, 2 turnovers with your starting point guard isn't great either. So, yeah, just would like to see more out of him. And like you, I thought he was going to thrive in this kind of setting.
Yep, absolutely. All right, who next?
Well, the only there's two more people on the team that we haven't talked about.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Greg Brown, I guess.
Okay.
Are they holding it back or something? He plays less than 11 minutes tonight. He gets to the free throw line a lot. That's
free throws in 10 minutes.
Yeah. I like his activity on the glass. Much like some of the other players, he's learning how to cut, and I think he's doing that at some good times. But we know he can dunk, and we know he can catch those outlet passes and throw it down, or the dump off passes from a guy driving baseline. We know he's capable of doing that already. I don't know. I mean, it's tough. Like I look at him and I still see someone with like really good quickness for his size, really good length, and if it pans out, he could be a really good NBA player with that athleticism and skill. But then I look at someone like Jabari Walker, who's about the same size, and I just feel like if it comes down to those two, Jabari is going to play over him this year because Jabari is much more suited for what we need out of an NBA player at this moment, in my opinion.
Yep, absolutely.
But Greg Brown's like, he's not doing anything bad or anything. It's not like he's like messing up or anything. It's just like to see a little more out of him as it progresses. But I mean, I don't know what the 11 minutes is. We didn't really run any sets for him or anything. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not really high on him. You have these players in the draft that have potential just based off athleticism, and people thought he had a lot of potential because of his athleticism, but I mean, I just don't know if his feel for the game there, his skill set isn't there yet. He's going to have to be a phenomenal defensive player, I think, in order to really make some noise. It's not fully there. He had a nice block today, which was good to see, but just offensively, like his feel for things isn't there, and is not a good ball handler, not somebody that's going to take his guy off the dribble, not somebody who's going to consistently hit threes. So it has to come on the defensive end. And as an energy guy, like I think he has the energy and the length and agility and athleticism to play good defense. It's just how good can that defense be is the question mark for him. So I still think he's going to need some time. He's going to need to try and find a niche offensively other than just like a lob target floor runner type of guy. He needs to find some sort of role he can play in the half court that makes sense. And right now, he doesn't really have that. He either needs to be a floor spacer or somebody who, consistently cuts and sets good screens and gets offensive rebounds or something. It's just kind of hard to see at this point in time. He still definitely has a chance if he works hard over the next 2-3 years and becomes a good defensive player.
Yeah, and what I like most about Greg Brown is the guy just seems so happy-go-lucky, like really positive attitude. He smiles a lot. That feeds off people. Like it provides energy, and so he can use that to his advantage, and I'm glad he's with the coaching staff he's with. And I think that's going to lead to, if he is able to turn that into his skill set into being a useful defensive player, I think it will happen here in Portland. behind the scenes, but I think he's still a ways away. And a side note, I do have a little bit of, or just something that I should say that kind of applies here. So I was curious to why the Blazers didn't pursue Isaiah Roby.
Yeah.
Because they could have claimed him off waivers. They were actually higher than the Spurs were on the waiver wire. And what I was told was they have enough of those type of developmental players. They're not looking to add any more of those. So in terms of young guys that they develop, I think once they took Sharp, they then turned their focus on guys who could help them win now. And you still have Sharp and GB3 and Jabari Walker now and Trenton, and we still have plenty of young guys on the roster. But I think if they do end up adding someone, I'm not convinced they will add another player. But if they do, I feel like it's going to be more of a vet presence or someone who's more established versus someone who is young and still needs to be coached up and is more of a developmental player.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of get that. Roby proved more. Like, that's why I wanted him for depth reasons. Just because he had shown that he can knock down the 3-point shot at the NBA level. He did that last year. And he had some pretty big games. I mean, we'd be talking about Greg Brown in a different light if he had some of the games Isaiah Roby had last year. Right. Now, Greg Brown had a couple good moments, but Isaiah Roby's just much further along, in my opinion. So I think he was definitely still a guy that you needed to work on, a guy that you needed to develop a little bit more, but he was much further along and could have been a better depth piece, I thought, than maybe a Greg Brown this year.
Yeah, I think the question, though, is defensively, and I think that's the other part to this is I think they don't want to have to worry about people defensively as much this year. So they're looking for players who are either ready to go on both ends or more specifically defense over offense, which, as you've pointed out in the past, might be an overreaction to last season. Hopefully not. But I think that was the main reason why Isaiah Roby wasn't brought in, was because he's not the greatest defender. And even though he can shoot better than pretty much any of the front court players we have on our team, I think the defensive aspect to his game, while he still has some potential there, maybe they just weren't going to be patient with yet another player on this roster in terms of defense.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, there's one more guy we got to talk about.
Do we have to?
Yeah, we have to. So, Didi Louzada, man. I don't really see it with him. I mean, this is the first time I've actually gotten a true chance to watch him, but I wasn't super high on him in the draft. He got drafted, if I recall correctly. And he doesn't play much today either, which is kind of confusing. Plays less than 15 minutes. He's 0 for 2 from the field, 0 for 1 from 3, has 3 points, 2 assists, 2 rebounds, a turnover. To me, he just seems like a 3-and-D guy who's not really a good 3-point shooter or defender. I just don't see what he does well at the NBA level. And he's on a roster. He has a roster spot next year. I would much rather give that roster spot to someone else. And it's not as simple as doing that, because if you cut him, that's guaranteed money. But if you could trade him for nothing just to open up a roster spot, I would absolutely do that at this point, just because I do not see the upside with him whatsoever. And I don't see him being a guy that in a pinch could help the team next year whatsoever either. So I don't really... I mean, he was brought over in the New Orleans trade. Maybe he had to be included in that deal. I forget, but I'm not a fan.
He didn't. Because remember, we had to cut Zeller just to have him.
I mean, from New Orleans' end.
Oh, you mean they said you have to take Didi?
Or no, I mean to match salary.
No, it wasn't, because they had I don't know.
Because they traded out Satoransky, Hart, and who else?
Nickeil Alexander-Walker.
I
think that was enough.
I can't remember if that was enough to match CJ or not. It was close because that was about like 25 mil and CJ was like 30.8. So they might have had to include Didi to make that trade. So, I'm not questioning him being on a roster spot on the team right now. It could have been something that Cronin had to do to make the CJ trade go through. It's just I would rather open up the roster spot for somebody else. I don't know, man. I haven't been high on him before, but I've gone into this with an open mind. I'm not trying to come to any conclusions based off, 2 games of Summer League. I just don't see it. So he has a chance to maybe open my eyes, I guess, over the next 3 Summer League games. I wish he got more of a chance because he's actually on a roster spot. I don't know why he's playing less than Kyle Alexander or Craig Randall, but I want to see something out of him these last 3 games. I want him to show something to me because he hasn't in the first 2.
Yeah. I think with the news that Casey Holdall, I'm about to sneeze.
Bless you.
I was like,
premature bless you.
I think I got rid of it. With the news that Casey Holdall dropped that we did indeed stretch Eric Bledsoe's $3.9 million after there was some rumors that we maybe weren't doing that. So we're very close to being out of the tax. So close that if we cut him or trade him and stretch his contract, it might, but then we have to sign someone. But like if we traded him at the deadline, for like what we did with Scal a few years ago, which still sucks, but what we did with him, and then maybe you have to give up cash or maybe a 2nd round pick just to have someone take him. Hopefully not, because it's a pretty minimal contract. But so you do that at the deadline, and then you sign a prorated player for the rest of the season, or maybe even sign Jabari if he doesn't make the 15-man roster from the 2-way spot to the actual roster like we did with Trenton. I think that might just barely get us under the tax. So if that's what their plan is, Didi's probably the most likely guy to go in that situation.
Yep. That's the thing. At the end of the bench, you either want one of 2 things. You want somebody that can help you as an insurance policy in case you have some injuries, or you want a guy with long-term upside. Greg Brown, hypothetically, is long-term upside, even though I'm not super confident he necessarily completely fulfills it. Whereas, honestly, a Jabari Walker this year would be a guy that I feel like could help the team a little bit if he had to play. But then also, he's a rookie, still young, also has upside, so he kind of checks both those boxes. It's why I wasn't a fan of CJ Ellaby being on the team the past couple of years, just because I did not think he had upside, and he wasn't a guy that I felt like could help the team either in a pinch. He doesn't shoot the 3. I mean, Blevins is a whole nother story. He was on a 2-way, though, at least. Yeah. If it's on a 2-way, fine. And if it's Dame's cousin, fine. Right? And Blevins gave us some fun moments, But that's why I wasn't a fan of CJ Ellaby on the team, because I didn't think he was a guy that could help the team as an insurance policy and didn't have much upside. And that's kind of how I feel about Didi Louzada. Now, if he drops 25 a game the next 3 games, maybe I'll be saying something different. This is a little bit premature, only basing it off 2 Summer League games for the most part. But knowing what I know about his game and then these 2 Summer League games, I'm just not confident in him being a guy that I think should be on the team.
Yeah, and then I think, once again, it's super close. I haven't figured out the exact math, but maybe they're just trying to get someone to want to take him. Because if we get someone to take him on right now, like I said, maybe we have to attach a 2nd round pick or something. But that would allow us to, I think, sign Jabari Walker to the actual roster as the 14th guy and be just under the tax once again, if that's their concern. So I don't know if that's what they're going for right now, or that could be a case where if they did pursue like a Jared Vanderbilt or something, he could be the guy going out. We technically don't have to send a guy out because we still have the Rocco trade exception to absorb a salary. That's whatever the difference between where we're at right now and the hard cap line. But yeah, I mean, maybe they're still holding out hope that something like that happens. I don't know.
Yep.
But we're kind of stuck with him since he's got a guaranteed contract. So just for people saying like, oh, we should just cut him or whatever, there's zero chance that happens because with the Blazers being hard capped and with not a lot of room to play between where they're at salary wise and that hard cap line, they have to account for every guaranteed salary they have. And it's a case where they're not just going to be able to cut a player that has a guaranteed salary and have that dead money on their books again.
Yep, absolutely. So I expect him to be on the team going into next season. And I feel like he's either going to be traded to duck the tax, like you said, or maybe even as a guy who gets cut after the deadline for somebody else to fill a roster spot. I don't know, but I just don't think he's a long-term piece here. Anyway.
And he does have 2 more years left on his contract, but they're both non-guaranteed. So after this year, he'll get cut. But yeah, just real quick. So I was watching the Houston game earlier, and they had their GM Raphael Stone on, and he was saying they have 19 players guaranteed contracts right now, so they still have to like make moves and cut people and stuff. So, but that's different because they're not hard capped, and if they do get hard capped, they're far enough away from that hard cap line where they can cut players. They're still way out of the tax and all that stuff. So that doesn't come into play for other teams necessarily. It's just Portland's in a unique situation where they're trying to toe that line of being good and also maybe ducking the tax, and they're hard capped. So you have to be very cautious with your guaranteed salaries. You can't just cut them and have that dead money on there.
Yep. Absolutely. Sorry, I just saw something kind of ridiculous in chat. Anyway, that covers all the players from this game. Anything else you want to talk about, I guess?
Let's talk about the Dame extension, I guess.
I thought we already did that. On last stream? No, it happened yesterday. I don't know. I'm tripping. Yeah, let's talk about Dame extension. So, I'm happy with it.
Yep.
You pay the man what he deserves. Paying him, like, people will look at the numbers and think it's ridiculous, like $60 million a year, oh my goodness, but you're talking about, like, what, 2025 through 2027 when the league's going to have a new TV deal, when you could probably have expansion by then. Like, he's going to make the max he can make is 35% of the cap. If the cap goes down, then he could be making, $35 million instead if the cap went down to 100, right? And then people will be like, oh, that's not, as bad, but it's literally just a percentage of the cap. Right? So it doesn't matter. Like a max 5 years from now, even though it's a higher monetary figure, it's still the same max as today. You're just talking about a league that's going to probably have more income then and have a higher salary cap. So, he's worth a max contract. Yeah, it's getting up there in age, but the dudes have been loyal to Portland. You got to reward him by being loyal back, in my opinion, or else you can't expect any star to stay loyal to the city of Portland. And that's not something you want to risk going into the future. You want to set the precedent that Portland, as an organization, will be loyal to its star players if their star players are loyal to them. It's a street that goes both ways, and it frustrates me how in the past year or so, people who loved Dame for being loyal or wanted Dame to be loyal then turned on him and said that they wanted to trade him because of what went down the past year. I don't think you can expect loyalty without being willing to give it back. So, extending him to that contract is, I'm happy with it. I'm absolutely happy with it. I don't think it really hurts what the team can do because the Blazers never do anything with cap space anyway. And if they're over the cap, what does it matter? You can still resign your own free agents. You still get an MLE, whether it's $6 million or $10 million. And who knows, you might have a new CBA by then. I don't know when that's up, but you might have some different things. But really, it just comes down to the owners paying more and maybe paying more in luxury tax, and maybe you can't do a sign and trade, right? So it's not something that really changes how the team's constructed. I keep seeing people say Dame should have taken less money so the team could have had more money to sign guys, but it doesn't work like that. They're going to be over the cap regardless, most likely. When was the last time the Blazers had cap space? It was 2017. What did they do with it? They signed Evan Turner. Yeah. 2016. Yeah, and they signed Evan Turner and Festus Ezeli with their $25 million of cap space. So, absolutely happy with the contract extension. Eric, what are your thoughts?
Well, let's just say, for example, because we've heard all this stuff about James Harden, right? Oh, James Harden took $15 million less so they could sign PJ Tucker, right? So let's just say Dame this summer, it doesn't work this way, but let's say Dame was like, you know what, Cronin, I will take $15 million less on my contract next year. Let's renegotiate that, and I'll give you $15 million less on my contract, okay? So we would not be able to sign anyone different than what we signed already. We still would have gone over the cap to sign Nurk and Ant. We would have had their cap holds on our books so that we wouldn't have had cap space anyway. That whole 60 million cap space wouldn't have even been 60 million with that. So we would have been able to use the full mid-level exception and sign minimum contracts. And what did we do? We didn't use all the full mid-level exception, but we used most of it on Gary Payton II. So we would have still signed him regardless of how much Dame was making. And we would have been able to sign Drew Eubanks. We would have had the 7th pick. So we would have been able to trade for Jeremy Grant. Everything is exactly the same. So there's no difference between taking $15 million less this year and him not taking $15 million. So anyone who's trying to tell you differently just doesn't understand how the cap works. It's not that simple. The Philadelphia 76ers were in a unique position. And what did that get them? It got them Daniel House and PJ Tucker. So, okay, like, do you think that Dame should take $15 million less or is worth $15 million less if we could have brought in PJ Tucker instead of Gary Payton? Like, no, that's ridiculous. Like, anyone who tries to say that he's not for the team or whatever. And then my other point to that is the point where this extension kicks in is the 2025 offseason, right? So we still have the rest of this offseason. We have 2023 offseason. We have the 2024 offseason before his contract even goes into play, right? And at one point, people say, oh, he's going to be old. He's going to be in his mid-30s, right? He'll be 35 that summer. If we haven't built a contender in 3 off seasons from now until he's 35, if we're not in a position to be good, we're not going to be good no matter how much he makes at year 35, right? So the problem is not how much Dame's making. It's that if you waste 4 off seasons, including this one, getting to that point where he does not have a good enough roster around him, we're never winning anyway. So what the heck does it matter what he's making? So get your money. Like, it does not matter. It would not make a bit of difference getting another player or anything like that in the next 4 off seasons. So he's doing something that has no impact on whether we win a championship or not. And he's getting what is deserved by him for being an elite player who was willing to stick it out and still, after all the crap he's been put through, all the stuff, all the narratives by the media, sat up there today and told this everyone that he wants to be here. He does not want to leave. He is never going to leave. It's not who he is. That he was specifically asked if there was ever been a point where he actually considered leaving. And his answer was last summer, he wanted the organization, he wanted to make sure the organization was as dedicated to winning as he was. And he kind of questioned whether the organization was headed in that direction. He said he had an almost 3-hour phone call with Jody Allen last summer. And he was assured after that, he felt good about it. He felt like it was in the right place. And ever since Cronin's took over, he said that him, Cronin, Billups, Jody Allen, everyone in the organization is completely aligned, all want the same things, all want to win, and he's cool with that. Whatever happens in his career, if he doesn't win, he's fine with that. He even said if he went somewhere else and won a title, it wouldn't mean as much to him. Like he'd be happy, he said, but it wouldn't mean as much as if I got the job done here in Portland. And that's the kind of guy you give $60 million to, and you give him that money no matter what the consequences are there. Even if you think there are consequences, like who cares what his trade value is? We're not going to trade him, right? We're not trading Damian Lillard. If he wants to be here, he's going to be here. So who cares if his value isn't good when he's making $60 million in a trade? Because we're not trading him. So, like, I don't care. Just give him his money, and it doesn't affect the cap at all. It's the same percentage in 5 years that it'll be for his contract that he's been making the last several years. Every other team makes moves that has good players, can make moves and bring in players. Like, it's every other team makes trades and that kind of stuff. We still brought in a $20 million contract in Jeremy Grant for nothing this offseason, despite Dame making the same percentages the cap that he will be making that year. Like, it does not prevent you from making moves. So I'm so sick of people arguing stuff that's not even true.
Yep. Well said, man. I don't really have anything to add to that. You know, we've been very consistent on Dame from day one, and it doesn't surprise me that he signed an extension. It's still funny how people will try and predict that he's going to leave this offseason. Oh no, well he's going to leave at the trade deadline. Well, oh no, well the offseason after that, and then the offseason when are people going to learn? I don't know, but he's here to stay. He's not getting traded. You got to be loyal to expect loyalty back. You need loyalty as a small market, so your stars don't leave for big markets, right? You need a loyal star, or else, who knows? Dame might have already left for the Lakers or the Knicks or whoever, right? So you got to appreciate loyalty and be loyal back is basically my thing. And if you go back on that, it doesn't matter what you're getting back for him. It's not a good precedent to set as an organization long term. So, it's like Dame is Ant's mentor. If Ant ends up becoming a borderline superstar or something, and we traded his mentor away when he was super loyal to the organization, you don't think Anthony Simons would maybe have some second thoughts? Like, well, Dame was loyal to these guys and they traded him, so why wouldn't I go look at playing somewhere else? Right? But if you're loyal to Dame, I mean, that sets the standard, right? So, now that's kind of where I'm at. It's bigger than, well, you could get back in a trade or, what the rebuild could look like. I mean, a lot of rebuilds fail. So I'd rather keep kind of trying to plug away at putting together the best possible team around him. I mean, that's what makes the most sense to me. So, this offseason, they didn't go all in by any means. I still have some questions about next year, but it's still the path that I want to go with this.
And Dame was behind pretty much every move they made. He wanted Grant, they got Grant. He wanted Gary Payton, they got Gary Payton. He wanted them to draft Sharp after exploring trades. He still wanted them to see what you could get for number 7. He tells them, no, we want this guy Sharp. Like, let's go for it. Like, he could be a star. So, like, they've done everything while him getting his input as well. And he said that every decision that's been made, he's completely agreed with, all that kind of stuff. So, like, we're not doing anything to make him mad either. And you get this stupid article that says that he's being ignored by Jody Allen, and he has to come out and say it's completely false. Dude, do you know what happened in the last? I don't know if you saw the story, but after the game, Amara, the Blazers social media person, put out a video of him just saying, like, hi to Rip City and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And he it turns out there was some noise or a song in the background that they couldn't have played the video on the Blazers channel because they don't own the rights to the song or whatever. And so Dame, this guy was nice enough to just reshoot the whole video after he'd already shot it once. Like, what other stars doing that? You know what I mean? And, like, he's such a nice guy, and I'm just so happy for him, and couldn't be happier to root for a better guy. And I'm happy that he represents us, and that we drafted him back in 2012, and that we're very lucky to have him. Even if that never results in winning a ring, I know that Dame, it won't be because he is running from the grind or just taking his money and not caring about anything else. I know that guy will leave it on the floor.
Yep. That's the thing. If players leave, they get hate. If they're loyal, they get hate. What's the common denominator? Players are going to get hated on no matter what. That's why I don't care about Twitter narratives or any of that crap. Like, that's why I don't pay attention to that stuff. I'm actually surprised as to how many people do, because no matter what, you're going to get hate. Every player gets hate, you know? It's just, you're going to see more of it as a Damian Lillard fan in regards to Damian Lillard, you know? So, anyway, I don't really have anything else to add to that.
Dude, he's going to have an FU tour next year, and I'm so ready for it. That guy's, like, you can tell already he's just, like, he's already locked in. And, like, you can see it in his eyes and his facial expressions and stuff. That guy is going to be good next year, and it might be just as good, if not better, than some of the best seasons he's put up. And I'm all for it. He looks like rejuvenated. And I think I've said this before, playing with a younger player like Anthony Simons, who also, you know, like Anthony never seems to get tired, you know, like that'll help him a lot. And, you know, you got Sharp now, you know, you can mentor him, and you got, you know, some more athleticism in the front court with Jeremy Grant and Gary Payton and stuff like that. So it's going to be a season where he's going to be not having to exert as much energy as he has in the past, but he also has more energy to give, and that's going to be a lethal combination when it comes to a skilled player like Damian Lillard.
Yep. So looking forward to next year. Looking forward to the next Summer League game, kind of. We'll be doing a play-by-play live stream for that one, because it'll tip off at 8 p.m. is the scheduled tip-off time. Knowing how these games have gone, that'll be like 8:30.
Yeah.
Because games run late and that sort of thing, and pushes it back. You know, we had double OT earlier today, which just pushes everything else back. So this game started extremely late. Started like, 7:30, 7:40-ish, and it was said to tip off at 7. So on Monday, when we'd normally go live here on the second channel, we'd be doing a watch party stream on the main channel, going live around when that game starts, somewhere probably between 8 and 8:30. And that'll be, who are they playing? They're playing the Knicks, I think.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember. I think it might be the Knicks. I forget, though. But we'll go live with that watch party stream on the main channel. Definitely go subscribe. If you don't know the main channel, just go on YouTube and search Blazers Uprise. This is our second channel, in case you did not know that. You're being interrupted right when I was going to ask you something. Nimrit, I don't think that's the case at all. I would say around the start of the season, I'm thinking. I don't know. I mean, like, it could heal. It seems minor. He could be ready by training camp. I don't know. It's hard to say. Yes, a torn labrum is a significant injury, but there are ones that are minor enough that don't have as long of a recovery timeline because they don't need surgery. So it just depends on if he needs surgery or not. And we'll have to wait and see on that. I think that's what his reevaluation date in 2 weeks will be. So I have no predictions as to when Sharp is back, but you know, we're gonna have to wait and see with that. Anyway.
Yeah, everything I heard, it was a minor, very minor tear, and it might be fine within those 2 weeks. So hopefully it's not much longer than that.
Yep. So we'll just have to wait and see on that. Hopefully he doesn't need surgery. Hopefully it is minor and he can be ready in time for training camp, because I think getting some training camp reps will help him out a lot, since he's not going to get these summer league reps, which sucks. Mm-hmm. Anyway, anything else you want to add on to the stream, Eric?
Well, thank everyone for tuning in late on a Saturday night. Good to see all of you, and hope to catch you Monday.
Yep, Monday, main channel, watch party. Hopefully we see you there. We'll have a video tomorrow. I didn't upload yesterday because I wanted to do I was going to do a video, and then after this game I was going to do a video talking about how Shaedon Sharpe was playing. Obviously that didn't happen, so I took the video from yesterday. I'll drop it tomorrow. It'll be just kind of looking at the Blazers. It won't be Summer League related. So anyway, stay tuned for that, and then stream on Monday, like Eric said.
Adam and Eve asked if we have a video explaining the hard cap. One is in the works. Look for that in the next week or so.
Yep. Anyway, that's a wrap for this stream. We'll catch you on Monday. Hopefully you have a good rest of your weekend. As always, peace out. Go Blazers.